All right. Welcome, everybody, to Diaspora Dialogue's Black and African American Student Panel. So these are considerations for studying abroad, various stories from some of our wonderful students and alumni, also featuring our amazing guest moderator, Malaika Marable Serrano, who is the Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion at World Strides ISA. So this is the overview for today. Once we get through some brief introductions and setting the scene, we will take it over to our panelists so they can talk about their experiences. And we'll end with some study abroad resources for any ASU students who are interested in participating in the near future. So my name is Caroline Zeyer. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, or she, her, hers. I am an international coordinator in our study abroad office right now at ASU. And I would like to introduce and have Malaika Serrano introduce herself a bit.
Thanks, Bren. My name is Malaika Serrano, and as Caroline very kindly mentioned, I'm the Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion at ISA by World Strides, one of the trusted partners for ASU. I'm really excited to be here, and I would like to give a special shout out to my friend Caroline, as well as Noah, and I know Dan's on the line, and just the entire ASU crew. Thank you so much for your warm invitation.
Thank you so much for helping us out today. All right, and now we'll get to our stars of the show. We have some great students and a lot of actually graduated students who will be sharing their experience today. So if y'all could take yourself off mute briefly, starting with Abubakar.
Hey, Caroline, thank you for the introduction. My name is Abubakar. I'll be taking part of the panel today. Thank you for the invite. I'm a Thunderbird alum. I graduated actually last fall and got a chance to go to Latin America and also Asia. So I'm looking forward to share those experiences with you. My day job, I work for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. I'm a architect that work on data systems. And originally I'm from Guinea in West Africa. I think that's about it. I'll turn it over to James.
Thanks. Hey guys, my name is James. I graduated organizational leadership undergrad at ASU. I am currently in my last 3 weeks of my graduate program. Again, organizational leadership, still at ASU. I participated in 2 study abroads, and I think they ended up being like 4 months apart or something like that. I did the Indigenous Cultures of Belize and a taste of the Peace Corps in the Dominican Republic. I had a great time there. I'm looking forward to sharing some information about my travels there with you guys professionally. I am a senior partner for a consulting firm, and I just assumed a new executive role at a new corporation here in Phoenix that asked me to help them to build out their infrastructure. I do a lot of work in the community here with youth, legislation, and all those sorts of things. So we appreciate all you guys showing up, and I look forward to answering any questions you guys may have.
And I don't think Makai is here yet. Monet, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, okay, so my name is Monet. I go to Arizona State University. I'm currently a junior. I'm in the WP Carey School, so I'm studying business management, and I have a minor in Spanish, so that's pretty cool. I studied abroad 2 times. They're both in the fall, and I was gonna do this last fall too, but COVID, so I wasn't able to do that one. Other than that, though, I'm a full-time student, and yeah, I like to study. I like to travel.
Excellent. Thank you all. I don't see that Todd is here yet either. So when they come in, we'll go ahead and introduce them as well. Thank you so much for those introductions. Like everyone mentioned, their programs that they went on are on the screen. So you can see it's a huge variety of destinations and times of the year, which is really cool to see. Now we'd like to give a land acknowledgement since we're coming into a new space together for ASU and also from where Malaika is coming from in Atlanta. So the ASU Tempe campus was built on the homelands of the Akimel Atum and Pipash peoples. We acknowledge these people, their ancestors, their descendants, and the land itself. This statement acknowledges that colonialism is not a past event, but an ongoing process of which we are a part. Malaika, would you like to give your acknowledgement too?
Sure, thank you so much. So I'm coming in from Atlanta, Georgia, and I just would like to acknowledge and lift up that these lands once belonged to the Cherokee and the Creek Nations, and I am a direct descendant. In fact, my great-great-grandmother was full Creek Muskogee. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, so with that, just some brief reminders today. Please keep your microphone muted unless speaking. And for all panelists and audience, we encourage you to keep your webcam on, just so it's a little bit more of a roundtable feel. And while you're watching today, type any comments, questions, and affirmations to lift us up into the chat box. And as we're entering a brave space today, we just wanted to remind everybody here to meet any varying opinions or controversy with civility, to own our intentions and impact that affects the emotional well-being of everyone, to challenge by choice, depending on if conversation is new or challenging to you, and to show respect and to not attack each other if there are disagreements. So we wanted to put forward 3 main reasons why we wanted to have this dialogue. So I think that student stories, Malaika and I agree, are a lot more important than people like advisors or others in the field. We can talk about why study abroad is amazing all day long, but it's really student stories that are the most important to hear, and recognizing that everybody's story is different and it's not monolithic. One thing that orientations prior to study abroad can sometimes not include a lot of is information on intersecting identities. And this is a great way to improve on that. And then in a time where we are a bit physically distant, we're not able to connect in person as much, it's wonderful to be able to share stories and share community with each other. And with that, thank you so much. I'm going to hand it back over to Malaika and our students.
Fantastic. All right. So as Caroline warmly invited you all, if you feel comfortable, we would love to see your beautiful smiles, faces, expressions, etc. So if you feel comfortable, if you feel camera ready, we warmly invite and encourage you all to share your camera, to share yourselves with us. I'm going to go ahead and invite our co-panelists to unmute themselves. And the way that our conversation is going to flow today, it's going to be very much a conversation. Caroline and I have about 5 or 6 questions that we'd like to ask our panelists that we've shared with them ahead of time. And you all are in for a treat because we had a wonderful kind of pre-call conversation, and you are about to be blown away by these incredible rock stars. So I just wanted to thank them up front for their time. So thank you. So the first question I'd like to ask, and this is for all the panelists, we'd love to get to know you all a little bit better. Tell us what organizations, studies were you most involved with at ASU, and did study abroad support or enhance your on-campus experience? Maybe we could start with Monet and then Abu Bakar and then go to James.
Okay, let me know if you can't hear me because sometimes my Wi-Fi is unstable. Just let me know. I think that the study abroad experience definitely enhanced my on-campus. I feel like it humbled me to just like the things we get here in the US and a lot of other countries don't have that, or they don't have it to the same extent. But like it opened my eyes a bit to talking with people and kind of hearing their perspective. Not being like as judgmental. I feel like everyone judges a little bit.
Monet,
So my Wi-Fi
Monet.
isn't working well.
Yes, unfortunately not. But you know what? Sometimes, and I'm so sorry, sister, I didn't mean to cut you off or interrupt. I just want to let you know. Sometimes if you shut off the video, that can help with the streaming. So that could be
Yeah.
a potential workaround. So let's see how that works.
Does that work better?
It does sound better.
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you a
yeah.
lot better.
Perfect, cool. You just won't see me. Oh, that's sad. What'd you guys hear last then?
You were talking about that you got humbled by your experience.
Yeah, I just feel like it was a very humbling experience. I also feel like a lot of the connections I made while I was studying abroad, when I came back, I knew a whole bunch more people from my campus and also from a bunch of other campuses. And I still have friends in the countries I studied abroad at, and they're always texting me like, whenever you come back, you can stay with us. And I think that's really cool too. So that's how it kind of impacted me. And it also helped me too with the language, obviously. Like I became fluent in Spanish and a lot more confident with my Spanish speaking. So yeah.
That's awesome. Malaika, I think I missed the first part of the question. Did you
Sure.
ask what organizations were involved with on campus and how did they support our experience?
That is exactly correct.
Okay, that's an easy one for me. So my program was online, right? So I was I did Thunderbird as a online program. And so I wasn't really part of any on-campus organizations. And so that's easy, right, to answer. But the fact that Thunderbird ran online did not deter from creating bonds with all of the students that were part of the program. And I think there was three key things, right, that I would attribute that to. The first one is when you start the Thunderbird program, there's this on-campus week all of the cohorts has to travel to ASU, and we all get crammed into this room, and we basically go through almost one semester worth of school in 1 week. So it's like super intense, and so going through that with a bunch of people, you kind of learn how to like work together quickly, and even if you don't like each other, you learn to appreciate each other. So we went through that. And then the second thing I would attribute that to is the field seminars, which hopefully I get to talk to you guys about. And so being able to travel abroad with people that you're studying with, and so like-minded individuals with global mindsets, cultural love, and the love of traveling. And so traveling with these people really kind of gets you closer, right? Because you eat together, you hang out together, you study together, et cetera. And then the third thing is really just kind of like all of the group projects, right, that you go through through the online program, because they really stress the group projects. And so in the beginning you hate them because you have to kind of deal with everyone's schedule, everyone's time, etc. And then when you graduate, you're like, that's the thing you miss the most, right? That interaction with people, and like, just arguing sometimes, and just kind of like, trying to get your points across and stuff. So those are the things you end up missing, the people. And so yeah, so that's I would say how my experience has really kind of impacted me in a way. James, I'll turn it over to you again.
Yes, thanks, Epicard. Appreciate it. And that's great, because my experience was similar to yours, or has been similar to yours, for both undergrad and my current grad program. Both programs were online. The twist is I actually live in Phoenix, Arizona. For a while, I actually lived in Tempe, although I was not taking classes. Just kind of based off of my professional schedule. I wasn't able to really lock anything in, so I said I'll just do the online. With that being said, actually the study abroad program is what actually connected me to campus. Because again, I was there, I would go to the ASU bookstore, right? And I would see, people on campus. I went to a couple different presentations, but I really didn't have a connection because as Abdikar mentioned, it's about the people. And if you're not spending time in the classroom, it's kind of hard to build those bonds. So once I participated in my study abroad programs, I actually met some of my professors, and my professor, Denise Bates, is actually who told me about the graduate program because it was still in the developmental stages while we were in Belize. And since I was in organizational leadership, she said, we're developing this, and just about the time you're set to graduate, it should be starting, if we can stay on schedule. And that's exactly the way that it played out. I graduated in December 2019 and went directly into the graduate program in 2020. But through that study abroad experience, I was able to connect with the campus since my first study abroad. So that will be going back about 2.5, 3 years now. I have come to the campus and done a couple different presentations for study abroad. I have done a couple of these virtual presentations for study abroad to talk to prospective students. One actually was for, staff and faculty, and they just were looking to connect and hear experiences of some of the students. So the study abroad office is great. They're always looking for, new ways to reach out and to touch students. So for me, I did one of the global intensive experiences, and just as the name describes it, it is that. So those are between 10 and 12 days, and the ladies will correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere in that area. And so both of mine were about 10 to 12 days. And so you get off the plane one day, and then it's you and a group of strangers. I think actually one of the programs, there were 2 people that came together, but everybody else was strangers. So this is Belize and similar for Dominican Republic. We packed in this van, they call it the Ninja Turtle van. It was only about 13 seats, and they had to put our luggage and everything on top of the roof. And then your experience starts there because you're now in this small confined space with all of these people you don't know your professors. And so from that point, that's kind of the bonding point, because you're going to experience something over the next 12 days, and it just blows your mind, the way that they lay the programs out. So we went through the program. You're able to bond with the professors. You're able to bond with other students. And a side story, and then I'll pass this. So last week we had a kind of a meet and greet for us panelists. That afternoon, one of my buddies from my first study abroad trip, who was forced to go back to the United Emirates due to COVID, sent me a message and said, "Hey, James, I'm back in Arizona. I'd love to connect with you." I said, "That's great. When do you want to meet?" He said, "Tuesday," meaning this afternoon. So on both days that we had these study abroad meetings, one of my study abroad buddies actually reached out. So it's just been a lot of great energy. So you'll definitely meet some people. And, once you go through this experience, like I said, the first day you're up at 6 a.m. and then it just goes. And the next thing you know, you're back on the plane and you're like, what just happened? So it definitely helped me to connect to the university, and I'll pass.
That is so nice. I'm just grinning from ear to ear here, just listening to all of you. And, for friends in the room who might be interested in learning more about the specific programs that the 3 of you participated in, I'm wondering if we might be able to, I don't know, Caroline, place the names in the chat. That way, if folks want to follow up with you or your office, then we can help facilitate that if that feels good to us.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that now.
Awesome. Great. Okay. All right. So panelists, so now we have a nice, really rich kind of context and overview of your study abroad experience. We'd love to do a little bit of a deeper dive into your study abroad experience. And so to that end, I'm wondering if you all could share with us, what were some of the factors and motivations in your decision to study abroad? And in parentheses, I have here, for example, the specific course, and we did hear some of that from some of you, the price, the location, etc. And this again is open to all of you on the panel.
Yeah, I'll start if you don't mind. Let's see. So Thunderbird, I think I should probably start at the top, right? The reason I picked Thunderbird as a grad school is, well, one, I had a very good friend of mine. He's almost a brother who went to Thunderbird. And so Thunderbird always came highly recommended, and he was kind of braggish about it, right? And so, when you have a best friend kind of brother always talking up something that you listen, right? So when I started looking for grad schools, he was like, you just have to go to Thunderbird. And then the more I looked into Thunderbird, there was a few things about the schools that I really liked. One was the global mindset. I love traveling. I have this, this passion for culture and meeting people and trying different foods and things like that. And I know it's not necessarily a great reason to join a MBA program, but I felt like I wanted a program that would expand my knowledge of the world, not just from this cultural aspect, but also from the business aspect. I wanted to understand why is it that a startup in Brazil, a tech startup in Brazil, what kind of resources do they have? Why are they not as successful, or why are they more successful than certain startups in the US? What does a large multinational corporation in Argentina, what are the things that they face when it comes to doing business? What government regulations impact the way they do business compared to the US, for example? So there's all these things I wanted to understand. And the more I dug into it, I realized that Thunderbird just had a faculty that was absolutely top class, right, when it came to those kind of things. So that's why I joined Thunderbird. And in terms of some courses, there was one professor specifically, Dr. Nelson. Dr. Nelson at Thunderbird is known for his extensive knowledge of Latin America. And Latin America has been kind of like a dear thing to me. I just go there every year. Every time I get a chance, you'll find me in Colombia or Brazil or Argentina or somewhere. And so going to Latin America with Dr. Nelson just kind of was like the thing you got to do, right? It's like, I don't care how much it costs. We got to just go to Latin America with Dr. Nelson because he knows so much about the region and he's so connected to even presidents, right? And so that was another factor that really kind of sold me on the program and on going to Thunderbird, right? And then the field seminars, the location of the field seminars were also another selling point, right? I mean, where do you get a chance to go to Asia with a bunch of people to learn about how you do business in that region, or Latin America or Europe, right? And I think they even had plans to go to Africa at some point. And so it's like, it just became a no-brainer. And so at that point, the price didn't really matter. The locations were already exciting. The professors were already excited, and so it was just like, okay, this is it, right? This is what I'm going to do. Yeah, so those were for me the main motivators in terms of how I picked the program and how I selected the study abroad programs that I was going to get involved in. Actually, if you ask me, I went to 2. I had the opportunity to go to 3, and the only reason I didn't go to the third one is because it was in Europe, and I was already living in Europe at the time, and so there was no point going to that one. But if they had done a third one in, like, I don't know, Africa or somewhere else, I would have totally gone. Yeah. So.
Thank you for that.
Monet, James, what do you guys think?
James and then Monet.
Yeah, so I was actually introduced to study abroad in the very first class I took when I enrolled to finish my undergraduate degree. And so I started going into the summer, and my professor was teaching the course from China, as he was leading a study abroad program from China at the time. And so each week before, he gave us the weekly announcements, he would start with ni hao. I think I said that right. It was however you say it, the hello in Chinese. And then he would just kind of give us a loose overview of, what they were doing that week. And he would show a couple pictures, and I'm like, man, this is cool. Like, I just got into the program. So I'm like, I gotta get the rhythm first. But he was encouraging us that whole time to look into it. And I think that program was 4 weeks. And then he also was at one point was able to get it extended for 8 weeks, I think, or they were to 7 or 8 weeks or something like that. And so at the end of the course, he said, if you're interested in this, maybe for next year's program, just let me know, and then I'll, submit your email to study abroad, or however it worked out. So fast forward, I go through the summer. August comes around, and the study abroad office sends me an email with a list of programs from all of these different countries. And so then I learned about the GIE programs that I mentioned previously, which were shorter programs. And as a professional, again, I would love to go to China for 7 or 8 weeks and be able to do that. Realistically, for me, at the point where I was at, I wasn't able to do that. But I said 10 to 12 days, I can definitely carve that out and make that happen. And so I researched it a little bit more, and I looked into the program, and then I kind of, filled out the general information process, and then I had to be screened, and then, you know, I had those conversations, and there were steps to do it. And so I went through the first one for Belize, and they offer financial assistance. There's some grant opportunities. Your student loan may cover it. There's a few different ways, and the study abroad office has a myriad of resources too. If you want to do it, there's enough resources there to help you piece together the funds to do it. My first program was studying indigenous cultures of Belize. We primarily focused on the Maya. As I mentioned, I'm in leadership, organizational leadership, in which we focus on people and human capital, and, you know, and how to affect and impact the people to then go on to make those changes in your organization. And so for me, I recognize that globalization has happened and will continue to move full force. And if you don't understand how to play in that realm, you're going to get left behind as a leader. And so the other thing that attracted me is that going to Belize, and actually for the Dominican Republic, we weren't going to a city. We were going out and living on the land. We actually got to stay in a couple of different Maya villages and interact with the people, and then actually talk with their leadership and talk about how the logistics of their leadership works and how their councils communicate. As you know, a lot of these individuals stayed in villages still. And so there was one community, there was like 52 villages, but all the leaders had to all come together and work together in order to try to make some of the legislative decisions. So being able to study leadership for that Belize was the reason that I got into that one. And then for a taste of the Peace Corps, again, similar. You know, signing up for the Peace Corps, I know there's usually a longer commitment, but there was this opportunity in about 10 days to go and experience what it's like to be a part of the Peace Corps. And so we got to meet a couple of different people who were actually working to implement projects in the Dominican Republic. And so again, as a leader, I thought it'd be super important to watch how they do this and work cross culture across with these Dominican people and these Haitian people. And so we got to do that. We got to help a family build a house, participate in a medical brigade. We do a lot in both of my experiences. We did a lot of work in the actual community. We went to schools in the Dominican Republic and worked with the students for a day to speak English. So there's a lot of opportunities. So aside from the classwork and doing those things, you still do get time to have fun. All right, you're going to go out, and if there's a beach there, you get to go do that. You get to go to the mall. So there's a lot of great things to do. I'll wrap it there.
Wow. Well, woof, I'm exhausted. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's awesome. Love it. Love it. I'm going to kick it over to my friend Monet and see if you'd like to share something with us.
Yeah, so I was interested in studying abroad just because growing up, I never went anywhere. Like I always stayed in the house. I always went to school and back and went to track practice, and I never did a lot of bouncing around. Like I never got out the house. So coming to college, I was like, I might as well like go big or go home. So I thought, why not study abroad? So my first study abroad program was after my freshman year. It was my sophomore year. It was the fall, and I went to Spain. I went there for like 4 to 5 months, and it was really cool. I was by the shore, so I got to go to the beach every other day, and I met students from all other different states, which were cool. But I chose that program because they had the most intensive Spanish courses. Because I could have went to Madrid or Barcelona, which is like the main places you go to and you go to Spain. But I chose a little city because the Spanish there was like really heavy. So that's why I chose that program. It was really cool. It was some of the first times I had done a lot of things. Like it was the first time I went to a bar because I wasn't 21 yet, but there you can do it at 18. So it was kind of cool to experience that in a different country. I met a lot of different people from different countries out there too. Like I met some people from Germany. I got to travel to, because out in Europe, it's so much easier to travel when you're already there because you just take like a train. So I went to Amsterdam and Germany, and a lot of people were going to Morocco. So you kind of get a taste of different cultures too, because there's a whole bunch of different things kind of mixed in one. So after that, I came back and I wanted to study abroad again. So the next fall, I went to Costa Rica. That was really fun. That's where I learned how to surf. And I figured out the difference between the Spanishes, because obviously Spanish is different in every part that it's spoken at. So I learned the differences. I learned some different slangs, and met a lot of people there too. But yeah, that's why I wanted to study abroad. and I wouldn't take it back for anything.
That's fantastic, Monet. Thank you so much for that. And we're so glad you got a chance to study in our Costa Rica program.
Malaika, if I may interrupt, I think there's one more thing I think is worth mentioning. I just put it in the chat, but it wasn't necessarily a motivator if you think about it, but I think it was definitely, all the programs that I went to were managed by WorldStride. And I think that without their assistance, trying to figure out as a student, everything you have to put together, get all your paperwork done, and pay for your study abroad program, et cetera, would have been a nightmare. And I think that would actually deter a lot of people from wanting to participate. So the fact that WorldStride is able to remove that friction and really make it effortless for you, you literally just have to go on a website, you have a checklist, you just like upload every document on the checklist, pay your fee, and then you're good. I mean, to me, honestly, like that was refreshing, because if it was a headache to try to attend one of these programs, I probably would have traveled on my own and not bothered going with the school. So I have to mention that, definitely have to mention that. So thank you, WorldStride.
Thank you. Okay, I see my friend Lindsay up in the corner. We're blushing. That was very kind of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, I don't know if James and Monet, if you guys use WorldStride when you did your study abroad, but for us, it was definitely one of the things that made everything easier. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was so sweet. I am noticing the time, and I have a couple more questions that I want to ask you all.
Sure.
But I'm wondering if I could start with Monet. And the question is, so let's shift and talk about our identities. Because we are members of the African diaspora. Yes, Black History Month. That's right. That's why we're here, have this conversation.
Right.
How did you explore or navigate your identities in your host communities? And how does the African diaspora present, if you will, in your host communities? Maybe we can start with Monet and then go to James and then Abubakar.
Yeah, I moved spaces, so I think you can see me and hear me at the same time. Cool. Okay, so in Spain, it was not as diverse as far as like there was like an African American population. The only African Americans that were there, or the only Africans that were there, were from Morocco, and they were immigrants. So there wasn't really like a Black community there. So it was different there. I was really the only one. But I just looked at it as like, oh, I'm different. Like, it's gonna be cool. I'm the only one. I'm here to represent. So that's what I was thinking. But when I went to Costa Rica, it was kind of different because in Latin America, it's kind of like all combined. So there's a lot of like African population there too. So there were a lot of people that lived there that were from Nicaragua. And so they're like, fair skinned too. So it was just easier there to kind of just like fit in a little bit as far as that. Like I didn't feel left out at all, or anything like that. But other than that, I just felt like I was there to represent. In Spain and in Costa Rica, I felt more kind of like I fit in.
Thank you for that. James and then Abubakar.
Yes, so my experience, both of my countries were in Central America, again, part of Latin America. So in Belize and both the Dominican Republic, the natives there looked like me. Our driver looked like he could have been my brother or my cousin. This is Belize. The Maya people there, they were brown. They had colors that were similar to mine. As far as, I guess for me, I wasn't looking for specifically African American, because as people of color, I connect with everybody. I don't look at that as a separation. So I personally felt very comfortable in Belize and in the Dominican Republic. As far as Belize, the Maya people who we had the chance to interact with were in a process of filing suit against the state of Belize as they claim indigenous rights to the land, and the state of Belize is trying to dismiss that. So they've been in a battle for a couple decades. They finally made some strides. I think maybe about a year or two ago, they received one favorable decision, but it was the same thing. You know, these people, they say, well, we're indigenous and we're here and this is our land, and they're fighting with the government. On the flip side, in the Dominican Republic, Dominican Republic and Haiti all sit on the same land space, and the Dominicans discriminate against the Haitians there. So again, it's people of color discriminating against people of maybe a darker color. And so it was the same thing going on. Again, I personally felt comfortable and, you know, I connected with the people. The people did not treat me as an outsider. You know, they can look at me and say, well, he's from the America or from USA, I should say. But as far as connecting and you know, we may have spoke with different accents, you know, but I didn't feel out of place. And I would say the composition of both of the groups that I was with, we had a lot of different cultures, and everybody for the most part seemed like they kind of found their place. But specifically, I know as far as male, if you want to go African American, I was the only one on both of my study programs.
Abubakar?
Yeah, thanks, James, for that. So yeah, it's an interesting question. So if I talk just about the two programs that I went to, Hong Kong and Argentina and Uruguay, I could start with Argentina and Uruguay. I think one of the things that's most striking for me navigating through Latin America, I mean, so including my study abroad program, Argentina and Uruguay, I would even throw in Colombia to that, Costa Rica, Panama, and then Brazil. I think one of the things to me that was most striking and that was very that I connected with in terms of my heritage, because you know I'm from West Africa, so I have like this direct African heritage, is hospitality, right? Just like, you know, like some places you went, like people treated me like they knew me from a long time. And, you know, it just reminded me of my mother just kind of, you know, telling me to give up my bed because we have a visitor coming home, right? It's like, okay, you're sleeping on the floor today. So-and-so's coming in with the two kids. And by the way, you know, they're gonna eat breakfast before you, you know, just the kind of stuff that like he reminded me going through Latin America, just the hospitality, the respect for elders, a lot of the things that I had when I was growing up, you can kind of see it there, right? And then the strong family values as well are very similar to my heritage, to where I come from. Like family comes first. You got to care for your own. You got to, you know, be respectful. So if I had to say through Latin America, that's definitely one of the most striking things for me that connected with my heritage, with, you know, the way I was raised, and you know how I identify as a Black person, and some of the values that I hold. And so that was definitely refreshing, which is kind of like part of my love for that region. Now going to Hong Kong, but that's totally different, right? I mean, I'm a 6'3", 220 pounds Black dude walking around Hong Kong. You know, it's just like you stand out, right? I mean, you just like a sore thumb, you know, it's like everybody, okay, here's a Black guy, right? And so I didn't necessarily connect to some of the same things I just mentioned to you in Hong Kong. But then again, Hong Kong is like New York. It's like people are busy. People are just going back and forth. The city is so dense and compact. And I don't even think people have time to just like, you know, just kind of minding their own business and going on with their life. So not that I didn't experience hospitality, but not to the same level where it was striking to me in other places. And to put it in perspective, like, for example, if you go to like Croatia, where it's like 98% white, and you're walking down, you know, the streets of Zagreb, for example, it's like people are looking at you not necessarily because, oh, you know, I think it's an intrigue, right? And I always give people the benefit of the doubt, like, okay, well, this is an opportunity for me to tell you about, you know, who I am, where I come from, and Black people. And I think as you travel as a Black person, I think it's mindful. It's important to remember that not everybody has a certain opinion of Black people, and you have to kind of like, you know, assume the best so that you get an opportunity to educate, an opportunity to represent, and not necessarily trying to feel attacked or trying to feel that people are like being racist or whatever the word might be, right? And so for me, it's always been an opportunity to just meet people and interact and educate. And so, but it does help, you know, like looking like a football player or a basketball player, it does help. I'll tell you that right now, because people just think you're an athlete and they just want to talk to you, right? And so that does help. But yeah, so that's been kind of like my experience traveling around, and there's tons more stories, but I think I'll stop right here.
That's great. That's beautiful from all three of you. And Abubakar, you know, you speak around, leading with positive intent, or making that, you know, if you want to make an assumption, assuming, you know, that positive intent. So I think that spirit is beautiful and really helpful, especially as we are navigating different contexts. I know we have a lot of friends who've joined us today. I did want to hold space, if that's okay, panelists, to see if anyone in the room would like to lift up a question, either in the chat, or maybe Caroline can help facilitate some folks who might want to unmute themselves if you'd prefer to speak. But we're just going to hold space for that. Maybe there's like, I don't know, there's a hand raise function. So we could use that too. Or comments and affirmations for our panelists. Those are warmly welcome as well.
No questions? We have a quiet audience. Oh, Leslie's got a question.
Yeah.
Hey,
Actually,
Leslie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. This is a wonderful way to spend a snowy, cold afternoon in Pittsburgh. I really want to thank all three panelists, and of course, Caroline and Malaika, for putting it together. But you are embodying what I would really love to give my students, and that's a strong enough sense of self to know that, you know what, it's okay. You're going to be looked at, you're going to get attention, but don't automatically take it as a negative. I think going into it with that sort of attitude really draws more positive energy. And I'm not being a Pollyanna. I know that there's all kinds of evil out there in the world. You know, I think we all could agree on that.
Absolutely.
But I think that to go in assuming the best is a good place to start. And then you can always back up if you have to. So thank you three very, very much.
Thank you for those comments.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. Well, if there aren't any, thank you so much, Leslie. If there aren't further questions, I do have maybe one more question I'd like to ask. And that, again, opening it up to any of our panelists here. When you were researching your host destination, what information did you find or intentionally seek out around the Black experience in the host community? And then kind of the second part to this question is, was it a self-reflective exercise? And if so, what did you learn more about your own heritage?
So
James,
I'll
you
go.
want to go first?
Yeah. Thanks, Abubakar.
Awesome.
Yeah. So for me, again, I went into into both of my programs open-minded. I wasn't really looking to seek anything specific to culture. I was actually looking to learn about other cultures and take some of those things and integrate them, you know, back here in the States. Again, once I was there in both in both countries, you know, I kind of learned the lay of the land by observing the people there. And then of course, you know, that some things are just going to jump out at you and say, oh, you know, a lot of these people, we resemble each other in appearance, and that's in Dominican and in Belize. And for me, again, it was just learning their history. We have our history and our narratives here, and everybody else in every other country of the world has a narrative and has history there. And so for the Dominican, I knew there was oppression in Haiti, but I had no idea that we got to speak with a young man who was he was, I think, half Haitian, half Dominican. And they would have the border patrol, whoever it was, they would just come pick people up. And regardless if you had a contact in Haiti or not, they would just take you and drop you back off across the border. So just seeing those types of things happen and being there and observing those things, it's like, well, you know, these individuals live here, but there's some similar things kind of going on there. So I was just open to learning. Again, I didn't have anything specific, but you're just seeing the way that other people of color kind of operated and value their culture was inspiring for me.
Great. I thank you so much, James. I think that one of our co-panelists has actually just entered the space. Hey, how are you?
Good, good. Can you all hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can. So we're getting kind of close to the end of our time together, but I do definitely want to just pause for a moment and let you briefly introduce yourself and then share with everyone where you studied abroad. That's okay.
All right, my name is Malaika Thomas. I'm 24, just recently graduated from ASU, and I studied abroad in the Czech Republic in Prague on the 2019 summer study abroad trip.
Perfect, thank you. So one of the question that I asked our panelists was when you were researching your host destination, what information did you intentionally seek out about the Black experience? So for our last kind of remaining minutes together, I don't know, Monet or Abubakar or Makaya, if one of you would like to respond to that. Then I have one quick final piece before I turn it back over to Caroline.
Yeah, let's give Makaya a chance to chime in the conversation. Makaya, you want to go ahead and take that question?
It was on what prior research did I do on the Black experience studying abroad in my host country. I mean, I looked into it. I read a few articles here and there, listened to or checked into some like travel blogs and things like that from people who had been there before. But I mean, the best experience, honestly, was being there just on the ground, experiencing the culture, seeing the way different interactions go person to person. I mean, that was the invaluable part about, I think, understanding the Black experience, as someone studying abroad, especially.
Very nice. Thank you.
Nice.
So we have just a few more minutes left together, but I do have a question for the panelists, and that is, this is all in the spirit of reciprocity. So you all have very generously donated your time and your energy and your expertise today, lifting up and sharing your stories. Is there anything that you would like to tell or to ask the study abroad advisors and administrators and faculty who may be in the room around either your own experience or perhaps widening access to education abroad opportunities? What is your ask of this community? Maybe Monet, Abubakar.
Makaya, I want to give you another chance to shine here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think
just
the panel that we're in right now, like the conversation that we're in right now, that's one of the best things that I think could be offered to the study abroad program as a whole. I think it's great offering study abroad and having all the resources there, but then taking it back another layer and having resources specifically for different people's experiences studying abroad, I think that's amazing. Like this panel, like the second I heard that, I was like, yeah, this is something I have to be a part of, because that's what really makes the difference in, someone getting the most or not getting as much out of their experience studying abroad.
Right. That's a great answer. I would agree with that. And if I had to say, I would say, try to find more funding so that you can help more students go. A lot of students don't go on these trips because, they're expensive, right? I mean, let's face it, some of these trips are, they're not cheap. And so being able to sponsor more students to go to these programs and if possible, make it mandatory to a point, to an extent, right? To where you have to get this experience so that people can really realize that we live in such a global connected world now, right? I mean, I'm not gonna state the obvious here, but we all know how fast Corona traveled across the world, right? So just kind of like allowing or enabling more students to go on these programs, and even if they're not necessarily, very far. I mean, Canada is around the corner, Mexico is around the corner. just small programs that can really give people the perspective, the experience of just, getting a passport and getting out of the US and broadening your perspective, I think would be my ask. And I know that Thunderbird at some point was talking about potentially canceling the study abroad programs. Whoever is on the call right now who has any pool or influence at Thunderbird, please tell them not to do that. It's one of the best part of the program. So those would be my two asks, Malaika.
For me, as far as ask, yeah, please don't cancel any study abroad programs. I'm with Abubakar. They are definitely valuable to those who participate. The more the merrier. That when that is, if that is an opportunity. I think you guys, from my personal experience, I think the Study Abroad Office does an excellent job with reaching out and attempting to stay connected with students who have been through the Study Abroad program, and always encouraging, as Micah said, with this panel, always encouraging us to engage and come and talk to prospective students. So I think I don't really have any specific ask. As I always tell the administrative individuals in the office, I'm always available to do things like this, come in and talk to classes, all of those different things. And so I think as long as you include a piece of former participants as in these panels and different presentations, I think that's the way to go, because as everyone on this panel has alluded to, that's kind of how you learn, is when you hear stories from others who have participated.
I'd say just like, I don't have any specific ask either, and I agree with everyone else that spoke, but I'd say like more information sessions. Like a lot of people don't know where to start or how the process works, because I wasn't gonna do a program because I didn't know like the process and what I needed to get and by what time. And I thought it was really difficult at first just because I didn't know. So just more information sessions, things like this to get it more interactive with students, and making it more relatable to them. I think that'd be helpful for them students.
I was going to say real quick, I think the kind of like piggybacking off the last two speakers, I think the accessibility component is what really plays like the biggest part in like getting a student to the study abroad program. I mean, myself, like going through college, I never even saw myself studying abroad until, I met a couple people who had got some more information from the study abroad office. And I was like, oh, this is feasible. This is something that I can actually do. And it not only was a great personal experience, but I mean, helped me professionally and in many other ways. But I think accessibility is really important.
Thank you. Thank you so much, panelists. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over back over to Caroline, who's going to close this out.
Thanks so much. Before we do, are there any last questions before I just highlight some resources from anybody in the audience today? Cool. Alrighty. So for any students who are on the call, maybe interested in study abroad in the near future, we have just a couple I say, but there are actually a lot of resources on our website. So I tried to make it easy to navigate. This is just a screen grab of our mystudyabroad.asu.edu. If anybody has their phones handy and likes to use QR codes, there is a Getting Started webpage, and that sort of takes you through the process of what applications look like, what sort of information is included, including our supporting diversity pages. And one of our supporting diversity identity-based pages is for racially or ethnically diverse students, and those will have any particular scholarships that are identity focused, resources that students can go to for further consideration. Some of them are even country specific, so that might be worth a look for anybody. And then we also have our program search webpage there. It's in the middle column on our student section of the website. And then all the way to the right, we've got our Explore Funding tab, which I put in the chat earlier. But we have a scholarship and grant section that has a list of available funding for anyone. And then Lastly, all of our programs do have a section called Special Considerations. They're on our web brochures, and they are divided by some identities. And it is more of a prompt for further research. We can't include all information, but for example, this program for faculty-led in Europe includes some information for anybody to look at into in France and Austria.